to the RunRX podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running.
Welcome back to the RunRX podcast. I'm your host, Coach Caroline, and I'm here with Coach Valerie. Valerie, we had a member send in a couple of great questions that we'll be talking about over the next couple of episodes. But the one that I really liked was, he was talking about how do you get motivation to get into running or to do the running when life gets busy. And I actually just went through this, right? So, guys, you know that you know if you listen to the Tuesday episode. If you don't listen to the Tuesday episode, then you're missing out on a great 5 or 10 minutes. Let me just tell you that right there. But what it was during the pandemic, I wasn't working out. I put on weight like we all did. We sat around thinking it was going to be 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 whatever, you know. And so then came January, I started working again and started standing. So I started finding myself getting sore for like no reason. Like my ankle's like sore, or my hip is sore, and I couldn't figure it out. And so then I started working out with you again in April. So from April to about June, I'm working out kind of regularly. I'm feeling pretty good. And then all of a sudden, I went back to standing again. So I was working out and sitting. Now I'm working out and standing and sitting. And suddenly my back spasmed. And I remember texting you about it because I was like, holy moly. I mean, it was like just the middle of my back, right above your waistline there. Just the whole thing just would not let me stand. It felt like I had to lay down the whole time. And so we worked it out. It took me about 2 weeks to stretch and work and stretch and work. And then I went on vacation. So now I'm 3 weeks. And I have to come back in to work out, guys. So have we felt this pain? Have you guys ever had a big project at work, or things are going great, you're all set up to do your marathon, and you pull a muscle, and now your PT tells you to take 3 weeks off, and now you got to go back in. So, Valerie, you work out every day. What keeps you motivated? What gets you back into the gym?
Well, one, I have to be there.
Yeah, that's true. You're teaching.
Well, and it is funny, by the way. Everybody has where they have to find their motivation, right?
Right.
100%. And I truly believe this is my theory. One is the accountability. So one, it's like put it on your schedule.
Yeah.
It's like meal prep. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
And when you do meal prep, you always eat so much better.
Yeah.
When you have a running plan, you tend to follow it so much better, right? And that's why, by the way, I think the panic sets in. Because if I am on a running plan where I'm supposed to run these 3 days a week, and then I get injured and I can't, so that's, first of all, what do I do?
Yeah.
Because on my plan it says run 3 miles.
Right.
Right? So that's why it's so good to come into our program, because we've got the combination of the skill, strength, and self-care. So I try to get people to connect with their movement. And what I mean by that is, if you knew now, because I'm going to tell you, that spending 5 minutes on doing something consistently would add up to so many good things for you, hopefully would make you start to think that way. And the reason I say that is because sometimes when people come in the membership and they've already got, I'm running Monday, Wednesday, Friday, how am I going to fit all this stuff in you're giving me, right? Then we used to hear that all the time. I can't spend 20 minutes practicing running. I have 3 kids and a job. And we would say, well, do you want to spend 6 weeks, with plantar fasciitis?
Right.
Right? But let's say you're already there, right? You're saying, I had to spend 3 weeks this way. Okay, first of all, I wish you would never get to that 3-week point.
Right.
So what we try to teach you, and this is important, is that little bouts make all the difference. So the motivation should be that I still have my goal of wanting to run. I still have my goal of wanting to run the marathon, or whatever your goal was initially. I hope it's still there, right? But the reality is unless I understand the intent of my movement, of what I'm trying to do, then it doesn't make sense to do the practice.
Right.
And I think that's where we get lost, y'all, that people think, well, if I can't run my 3 miles, then I'm not going to do anything. Well, then all of a sudden you haven't done anything for 3 weeks. So then I want to think, instead of thinking I have to go back to running 3 miles, I want you to think, I'm going to spend 5 minutes today just on a movement.
Right.
and it could be standing in pose, working on my balance, and thinking, wow, if I work on my balance, it's going to make me better at everything I'm doing. And how, you got to start thinking on the preventative end. Could I spend 5 minutes, finding a curb outside and doing some curb runs, right? Like, start thinking in ways of how could I spend 5 minutes today doing something that could help me to get back to running.
Right. Like an example that I used to always think about at work, like if suddenly I've got, a sales training seminar that's now I got to get into work early, I can't do my run in the morning, the next 5 days I'm not going to be able to. So now I take the stairs, right? I go to the farthest bathroom.
Right.
I park farther away. I just try to increase my movement, increase, what I'm doing. And you won't lose the fitness, will you? Especially if it's like a week. Now, I want to throw out there that this is something Valerie and I joke about all the time because she's never stopped, really. She just does her thing, right? She works out daily, pretty much, right? I think the most you've ever stopped is like 1 or 2 days, at least since I've known you. You don't usually.
But I don't do the same thing every day.
No, you don't. You totally mix it up. But she's not like me, guys. I will, if I, like, during the pandemic, guys, I sat on my butt. I was the Netflix, where it was sitting there saying, are you watching? That was me. I was totally, that was my person. So I'm that person. If you give me an opportunity to quit something, I will quit it, okay? I will quit it, and then I'll have to restart. And it happens with me all the time. That's my personality. And it's part of why I can totally get where you're coming from. So what happened when I had now I'm feeling better, no more work stuff, I got to go back into the thing. I will tell you that the night before, what hit in my head was, oh crap, I got to get up and go work out tomorrow. Ugh, I'm going to be sore because it's been 3 weeks and I haven't done squats in 3 weeks, which is problem number one. I should have been doing squats, but I haven't been doing squats in 3 weeks. So what I had to do is I kind of had to get tough with myself and mentally say, wait a second. If you start now, you'll probably be back to where you were in about 3 weeks. Because you took 3 weeks off, you'll be back to where you were. But if you wait a week, it's going to be 4 weeks then.
Right.
If you wait another week, it's going to be 5 weeks. Every break you take is about as long as it's going to be to get you back into it. And then I kind of had to ask myself, why are you doing this? Why are you getting up and going and being sore? And for me, it was because I do want to be able to run and move and be with my dogs and I'm 55, I want to live to be 75, and I don't want to be in a home. I don't have kids that are going to take care of me. So I better be able to take care of myself. So I have to think of that. So I want you guys to realize 2 things. First off, it's just a period of time, and the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to come back. That is just the reality of it. But then I want to go back to, why did you start in the first place? What made you start meal prepping? What made you start running? What made you start strength training? What made you watch Valerie do those funny little drills and go, that's fun, and then go try it, and then you started following her? Whatever got you to do that, remember that. You got to remember that why, right? You got to remember that motivation that got you out there. But just really quick, so is it true that if I take 3 weeks off, it's going to take me about 3 weeks to get back, or is it less, or is it more, or is it?
Well, I mean, I think that most people, and talk about where you're trying to get back to.
Well, yeah, and we've talked about the fact that it takes you about 6 weeks to build back to build your cardio when you're starting to learn the.
Well, here's what I tell people: a lot, and this is just true. A lot of people, when they're running, before they start RunRX, they're running with their musculoskeletal system.
Right.
So the effort that most people are putting into their running is really muscular. Like, you're doing a strength training workout more than a run, and that's why you get so fatigued, and that's why we see so many injuries, because everyone's out there trying to pump their arms or reach their feet, do unnecessary movement, but
Right.
that's what they're doing. And so it's tiring, right? And so I totally lost my train of thought.
I was talking about, and I'll cut this out. I was talking about how long does it take you to get back in if I've taken 3 weeks off.
All right, so she's saying I've taken 3 weeks off. So I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go, I've taken some time off, or I'm injured and I'm just coming back in. but I had a fitness base to start. Like, let's go with both. If you were already fit, and then life got in your way, and it's been like 3 weeks you haven't done anything, you really have not lost fitness. I mean, you've still been probably moving around. Your body's really pretty cool that way. Now, would I just go back out in the same distance I just did? No, especially not if I was injured. But one of the things we find a lot when people come into RunRX is, especially if you've been running with pushing or reaching, or again, 10 frames on the ground, 8 frames on the ground, you've actually been running doing a lot of active muscle contraction. So the muscles are going to get fatigued before the heart. And so a lot of you guys are exerting, not so much cardiovascularly, but muscularly. And I always say to someone, if you came into the weight room, even if you'd never lifted weights, and someone said, oh, here's a 10-pound weight to hold in each arm, and here's a 15-pound weight to put on your ankles. Now do 1,500 reps.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do it.
Right.
You physically probably couldn't do it, but also you'd look at me and be like, I'll see you later, bye. But just recognize that that's kind of what you're doing to yourself.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say to me, wow, when am I going to get my cardio? And I'm like, well, you actually have your cardio, but you haven't been developing it.
Right.
So that's what we also, again, the best part of what we do. But you've got, it does take 3 to 6 weeks to get the cardiovascular system either back to where you had it before, but honestly, you're going to improve probably by 10%.
Right.
If you come back in the way we help you come back in. Because most people, like I said, haven't actually been running with their cardio. They've been running with their muscles. And so, yes.
Right. So that's what I was trying to get to, is if I've been in the membership even for a while, and maybe I took the course a while, and now I'm listening to you again, and I haven't been running or whatever, and I want to come back in. It's not necessarily going to be starting at square one if I've already been working. No, of course not.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Right. So take that into account, guys. When you take time off, and you need to come back into it, so just to kind of regroup, if work gets in the way, little focused bits, continue to do it, add it to your life, it will work out. You won't lose that much fitness. And then if life does get in the way.
It's not even the losing the fitness. What you guys need to understand is that when you're learning something like how to run, and you're working on, there's 3 elements to it. You can work on each element independently. The reality, though, is if you do not work on the elements at all, you're not just going to go back to running.
Yeah, that's true.
Because so then there's no reason ever to not be practicing running.
Yeah.
This is what I tell people. To stand and pose for 30 seconds on each leg 1 time a day, you cannot tell me you don't have time for it.
Right.
To go to a wall and do 10 wall falls that take, again, 10 to 15 seconds, you have the time.
Right, at the microwave.
I don't care, but my point is that once you learn the elements of what is running, and you keep practicing those elements just once a day, for a minute to 2 minutes, when you do go back to running, you will be a better runner.
So that's really what it comes down to. That's how you fit it in. That's how you make it work, is looking at those elements independently and fitting them in where you can. And then I'm going to challenge you guys to find fun ways to fit them in. Like I do my self-care on the commercials, or if my husband has to use the bathroom and so he pauses the Netflix, so I'll lay down and start rolling. My dogs love it. I can't breathe when they're licking my face, but I get my rolling in that way, right? So that would be another challenge. Is we're all about making it fun.
Right.
Make the workouts fun, make your running fun, and of course make fitting it into your life fun.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRX podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.